Hi, my name is Jim Rodrigues, and early in the 1990s I was a new engineer at Microsoft, and one of the more experienced engineers told me the key to success is to under-promise and over-deliver. And the way he explained it is, as you give time estimates to your manager, instead of saying something might take 3 days, if you think it could worst case take 2 weeks, tell them it's going to take 2 weeks. That way, if you can get it done in a week or less than the 2 weeks, you look like a hero. And so I realized that if you miss deadlines, if you say something is going to take a few days and it took you a couple weeks, that's career limiting. And so it made sense to me that you want to be ultra conservative and beat expectations. And it was later when I became a manager that I realized that that's not what an organization should do. What really you want as a manager is you want your organization to promise and deliver. And the reason for that is because there are finite resources in an engineering organization. And if you have people who are padding their estimates overly, then what ends up happening is you have to cut to budget the number of resources you have. And you unfund things that otherwise could be started, and they could be key features that would differentiate your product. And so what you've done is, by doing this under promise and over deliver mentality, you're losing an opportunity to work on those kind of lesser important features that may end up being more important. And so what I would do is I would explain to my org how we want to promise and deliver. And we put together a system, a Scrum system, that would enable that. What we did is we asked the engineers, the first thing is to ask the engineers to estimate in expected time. Not worst case, not best case, but based on historical data, their own judgment, any research they've done, how long do they think this task will take? And we used those estimates. Then as managers, we went through the number of resources we had, and we decided prioritization of the tasks, and 70% of our engineering team resources were for committed tasks. Those tasks we said will get done in this sprint, and 30% would be labeled as targeted. These are things that we would like to get to, but if we have to, we will pull resources from the targeted tasks to beef up the committed tasks to make sure that we get them done. And so the next thing we did is we front loaded in the Scrum cycle. Let's say it's a 3-month cycle. In the first month and 2 months is when all the committed tasks need to complete, leaving the third month for the buffer, the overflow, if something's going over. The targeteds wouldn't start until mostly the second or even the third month of the cycle. And that allowed us the ability to move the resources. And so a couple of benefits here. One is, as a team, especially as we went through this a few times and got good with our estimations, we were able to promise the committed tasks and always deliver on those. We were also able to deliver on many of the targeted ones, with engineers especially motivated to get their committed tasks done early to be able to get to the targeted tasks, which often they felt personally they loved them, and they really were motivated to get the committed work done to allow them to get to the targeted work. Now there's two things as a manager that come to play here, and you could probably think of the problems. First is, if your committed tasks require a certain skill set that the people working on targeted tasks, if you add them to the project in that third month, it's not going to be helpful. So you as a manager has to think about, am I fooling myself, or do I have the flexibility in my organization to be able to shift resources if need be? And so if not, then you have to think about how do you break up or how you cross-train, or there's some proactive management that has to happen there to allow you that flexibility in your organization. And the second thing is there's some tasks that seem sequential. It has to happen in the second month, it has to happen in the third month, and so it's hard to not want to schedule committed work in that third month. And so my ask to you as a manager is to say, don't let that happen. Find a way to segment the work to allow it to complete in the first 2 months of the 3-month cycle, and if not, then look at it as maybe it should be targeted work, or perhaps it should be split over a couple sprint cycles. But you really have to have diligence to make sure you are creating an org that will promise and deliver, and you're creating a system that enables that to always happen. And so I hope that's a helpful story.